America's biggest issue is today? Its biggest crisis, its biggest problem? Well, either one. Huh? Forgetting God? Okay. Hi? I. Me. You. Oh, okay. There's our biggest problem.
Meism.
Meism. All right. So, but some people think forgetting God. Would some people think it's a financial issue? I mean,
We're in great shape.
we're in great shape. What's our debt?
20 trillion.
All right. Is that our biggest problem? Is it?
I don't think so, and I'm not that smart.
Is it terrorism?
No.
That's just a side
Depends on
effect.
where you live.
That's a side effect. Yeah. So you get down to the biggest problem with America. It has to do with something called character, right? How many times over the past few elections has a person's character risen as a reason to elect or not elect that person? Quite a
Well, one person thinks it's a good character, the next person thinks it's a bad character.
So sometimes it comes down to defining what character is, isn't it? All right, well,
If you're not politically correct, you're wrong.
yeah. What about business? Is character important in business?
Sure is.
Very much so. What about in a family relationship? Is character important there?
Yes.
If you don't have that, you don't have family.
If you don't have good character, you don't have a family. So we're in a nation that's beset with crime. We're in a nation that's beset with political intrigue and espionage and collusion with the Russians and all these things being thrown around. We're in a nation where businesses are after one thing. What's that? Money, the almighty dollar. And things to get there, we do what needs to be done to get it. So who do we look for? Who do Americans look for as leaders for character? Who's our examples that we're going to look at?
Athletes.
Huh?
Athletes a lot of times.
Athletes
And movie stars.
and movie stars. And what kind of character do we see there?
We pick poorly.
We pick poorly. Leaders in the nation.
Which usually boils down to who will give me the most.
Exactly. We're looking after ourselves, right? Okay, so if we can't look at political leaders or leaders of nations, if we can't look at athletes and movie stars and social media type people, maybe we can look at religious leaders. How's them?
Which religion?
Which leaders?
Who ignores questions.
So the Catholic Church is undergoing a tremendous amount of problems, right? Because of sexual abuses and stuff like that. How many leaders of mega churches have fallen here in the past decade or two?
So many.
So many. So we've got a dearth of good moral characters to emulate, right?
You know, the sad part is, even if you elect somebody to office who seems to be a good person in their home territory, once they get in the Washington thing, they end up selling out.
Very much so. Because they're just working on staying in office.
Well, they start out, they've got a good idea, they want to get this law passed, but they have to compromise with somebody else to get their law passed, and pretty soon it becomes you wash my hand and I'll wash yours, and you're back in the same boat again.
We're back in the same boat.
I think we need to have term limits get to that point.
Okay. Now we're going down to the political realm.
No, but that is really true. You can't.
Okay, but where do we go for good character building.
We forgot God.
We forgot God. It should happen here, right? This is where it starts, and it extends to the home, where we reinforce and communicate those lessons on a daily basis. So we're going to spend a few weeks looking at building our godly character, because that is our ultimate goal, is to become more like God, isn't it? Please say yes. It should be. So we're going to take you back about 3,500 years. There's this nation that started with this little guy named Abraham, right? And he moved to a land that God picked out for him. Now, what was the world like when Abraham started? Was it godly? Well, there's all sorts of nasty things going on, wasn't there? Just ask Noah before that. So the world kept going down taking this turn and getting into some pretty bad situations. People weren't caring about each other. People were only in it for themselves. People were only interested in the almighty ruble, drachma. There you go. Okay. And so, and they're worshiping all sorts of weird gods and having all sorts of odd religions and things like that. And so God picks out this guy named Abraham and says, I'm going to send you to this new land called Canaan. Ends up being Palestine or Israel. They're there for a while, and they end up having to move because of a drought. Remember that? So they go to Egypt. And Egypt, because of Joseph, welcomes them with open arms. They are great guests within Egypt. And Pharaoh looks favorably upon the Israelites. Remember that? And boy, they prosper there. They go like gangbusters. Businesses are coming on, families are growing, and then over the next 400 years, what happens? They forget. The Egyptians start saying, we got to put our thumb on these dudes because they're going to overgrow us. They're going to take over this nation. And so they put them into slavery. What was that like? It's miserable, right? As a slave, do you own anything?
No,
No. As a slave, do you have your own time?
no,
No. As a slave, is anything yours?
no.
No. So you're told where to go, where to live, how to work, who to marry, all these things. You have no self-control at all, right? And so God hears them. Remember that? And he picks this dude named Moses out to come and deliver him from Egypt. Moses goes in, delivers God's word to Pharaoh. They have the 10 plagues to kind of convince Pharaoh that Moses has the supreme being behind him. And Israel's invited to leave. And they go out into the desert for 3 months, and they end up at this place called Mount Horeb, otherwise known as Sinai, Mount Sinai. And God says these people need some instruction. They need some teaching, because now they need to think for themselves. They need to become different than what they were back in Egypt. And I've got a plan for these people. So he sets out some thoughts. Would you, huh? Laws. Right. What do we call them?
10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments. Pop quiz, closed book. Let's name the 10 Commandments.
Thou shalt not kill.
What are they, or what's the name of them?
Thou
What are they?
shalt love the Lord thy God with all their heart and mind and soul.
Is that one?
They'll have no other gods before me.
Okay.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Nope.
No, don't covet, yeah.
Huh?
There's two covets.
No covets?
Oh, isn't there two covets?
What's the other one?
Don't cover your neighbor's wife.
They're all in one. Don't cover your neighbor's neighbor or his donkey or anything, or his maidservants or manservants or anything he has. It's all in
Not
one.
steal.
Do not steal. All right, stop. You're an average American.
Steal, because you're saying steal right there.
We got that one, God first. So if you're the average religious American, Catholic, Protestant, whatever, that's all you can name. That's it. How many are we missing? 6. Oh.
Circle it.
Keep the Sabbath? Good, Tom.
It's embarrassing.
Don't lie.
Don't bear falsehood.
Good job.
Give your 3 2 while you're at
It's just like Family Feud.
Come on.
Um,
It's hard, isn't it?
I bet there's one in there about give to your church.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Your choice.
So that was a big X that went bong.
Wrong.
One.
Do not steal.
We already got that
We
one.
got that one.
4.
Number 4.
Yeah,
Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay.
you can't put that one again.
Okay.
Well, if that's the case.
All right, we got.
No falsehood, no lie, no, you got that.
No looking, honey.
Cheating up back there?
She was fixing to.
Is there something about your parents?
Obey your parents.
Obey your parents. Honor parents. Anything else?
But there's 2 more, man, huh?
Yeah. Go ahead, look.
I'm a cheat, Lisa.
Okay, can now.
Go ahead. You got Bibles? Exodus chapter 20.
It's rebooting.
Huh?
It's rebooting.
It's rebooting.
Small print on
Murder.
Murder.
No kill.
That's no kill.
Kill.
Or no kill.
Okay.
Yeah.
the idol thing. Don't make yourself fall.
There you go. No idols.
God first, number 2.
You will have no gods before me. You
Oh, don't swear. Don't,
Misuse the name of the God.
Is number 9 and number 2 the same?
No. Actually, they're not.
Take the Lord's name in vain.
I've got that
Did you
one.
get that one?
There's taking
Yep.
the Lord's name in vain.
It's gonna be the ball.
Right here. Misuse of God's name.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay. So, these are what we call the 10 Commandments, right? They're laws. Now, how do you normally think about them? What are they to you?
Testament.
Old Testament, before God became a Christian. Okay, that's how it's sometimes put. Yeah. So, are they restrictive?
Sure.
Yeah, they are.
Don't do these things. Don't tell us things
There's
to
a few
do.
things that you do and a few things that you don't do.
So for most people, they look at it as a ball and chain, right? Remember the old convicts on the chain gang? They would clamp a chain, a ball, a metal ball to them so they couldn't run, and they'd have to drag it around. That's how we look at laws, right? How do you look at speed limits?
Challenge.
An inconvenience, a challenge, restrictive, suggestions. Okay? And we call these laws, we call them commandments. Thou shalt, thou must. But actually, the word Torah doesn't mean law, doesn't mean commandments. It means instruction, teaching. Okay? And these are actually called the 10 words in Jews, in the Jewish vernacular. It's not the 10 commandments, it's the 10 words. So does instruction, does teaching put a different spin on this for you? How, Mom?
Well, when you're raising children, you can give them, spank them, or you can't do this, you can't do that. But if you love them into something and you try to teach them the right way, it's just a different way, and the children respond to it differently.
They do, don't they?
And we're God's children.
We're God's children. So maybe instead of looking at these as ball and a chain, you ever driven down the highway on a steep mountain pass? What's to the side?
Guardrail. Need guardrail.
A guardrail. A cattle panel. What's that guardrail there for?
Keep you from going off the cliff.
Well, I want to see what's down there. That's restrictive.
That's death.
It should be if you're doing things right.
So these guardrails are protective, aren't they?
They help guide us.
They're a guide. They're a boundary. So on the roads that we travel on today, there's lines, okay? In the middle, there's a dotted line. What does that mean?
Stay in your lane.
That's restrictive. That's a ball and chain. I want to be over there.
I pay taxes.
Huh?
I pay taxes on both sides.
I pay taxes on both sides. So I decide to go over to that other side. What happens?
You get killed.
It could be nothing.
Could be nothing, but usually sometimes somebody's going to get killed, right? So you guys have all seen you all seen that sign somewhere? Huh? Well, that's inconvenient. I'm already doing 90. I don't want to stop. What's it doing?
Telling you that you need to do something.
Why?
Because they think that you need to stop.
You
at
need to
that
stop.
time.
Your life will be better if you pay attention to those.
It protects you. So not all laws, not all rules, not all regulations are necessarily restrictive, are they? They're protective. If I teach my children, you don't eat a sandwich that's been laying out on the street all day, am I starving my child? What am I doing? You're protecting your child. All right. So, God came into a world that had a lot of issues, had a lot of things going wrong. Galatians chapter 5 mentions some of these things. Any of them look familiar? You experience them in the world? All the time. So God comes into a world that's full of these things: sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, rage, selfish ambition, dissension, factions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the infamous and the like. And he picked out these people that are used to living in slavery, involved in a lot of this stuff. And he says, I want to do something special with you. I want to teach you a better way to live. So he comes up with these 10 commandments, right? And everything else in Exodus and Deuteronomy and Leviticus and thereabout. And so now we're going to have a people that doesn't kill, that doesn't steal, that doesn't lie, that doesn't, all them other nasty things we were talking about, that honors their mothers and fathers, that puts God first, right? So this is a code in a way, right? And we have codes today, don't we? No? The code of the West.
Don't touch me and I won't touch you.
Don't touch me, I won't touch you. So, yeah, okay. So he gives them a code of ethics to follow that's going to change them, that's going to make them unique. Listen to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. See, I have taught you decrees and laws as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may follow them in the land you are entering to take possession of. Verse 6, observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations who will hear about all these decrees and say, surely this is a great nation. This great nation is wise and understanding people. So what's the idea behind the 10 Commandments? To set them apart. Example to the world. And to build your character. Now, the Israelites took this pretty serious, didn't they?
100,000 more.
Let's make 100,000 more. Let's add to them. And so they took this, and this became an end into itself. All right? Follow me on this one. Just the fact that I observed these laws, have I lost my power? No, I'm there. Is all I need to do. That's it. Okay? So, I don't steal. I don't kill. I honor my father and mother. That's it. I am grand. I am good before God. All right. That's it. That's all I got to do. What's missing? Oh, there's more to it.
Instead of driving in the middle of the road where they were supposed to, they like to rub the guardrails all the way down.
Jesus ran into a group of these people that he absolutely despised. They did all these things, but that was it. What were they called?
Sadducees and Pharisees.
Sadducees and Pharisees. All right.
Seems like you talked.
So the challenge became, why do we stop there? Do we just live by a code of ethics, or do we take this on to make it become our morals? What's the difference between an ethic and a moral?
I guess an ethic is more of a suggestion and a moral is what you have. You live.
Excellent. Ethics are what somebody puts before you. It's a law. It's a code. It's something. It's an external force upon you to cause you to live a certain way. Key word, external. What about moral?
That's internal.
That's internal. And Jesus was all about the internal, wasn't he? What did he call it? He called it your heart. So go over to Galatians chapter 5 again. Where is it? Is it in here? Yeah. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. Read those slow for me.
But
Love,
Love,
joy,
joy,
peace,
peace,
forbearance,
forbearance.
kindness,
What was that one?
kindness,
Kindness.
goodness,
Okay.
faithfulness,
Faithfulness.
gentleness, and self-control.
Gentleness. Self-control. All right. These are the characteristics, the godly characteristics that God wants us to develop. The Ten Commandments give us external laws, external rules, external suggestions on how to get there, but they don't get you there. Right? So, Tom, can I never touch another woman but still be an adulterer?
Yes.
Yes. But I never touched another woman. I
I
can.
tell you that if you look at another woman with intent in your heart,
Okay. I've never killed another person, but can I still be a murderer?
If you murder in your heart.
No.
yes you can.
Jesus
Want
said,
to. You don't.
so
if I could, I would.
if I could, I would. Is there a difference? I cannot do the physical act, but I could still be an adulterer. I cannot do the physical act, but I can still be a murderer. I still thought about it and seriously considered it. Maybe even planned it. Or maybe just called them a fool. Murdered their character. So why do we stop here and judge everybody by how they meet these things? Well, Steve didn't murder. Well, Tom didn't commit adultery. Well, Denise honors her father and mother. They're good people. They should get into heaven. But Jesus looks a little deeper, doesn't he?
So I give my body to be burned. If I have not love, I have nothing.
If I have not love, I have nothing. So what we're going to be doing over the next 10 weeks or so, because I think there's 10 commandments, is we're going to be looking at these and saying, what is this trying to develop within me? Not that I am just meeting this on an external way, not that I'm, as Paul put it, not that I am externally circumcised, but my heart is circumcised. That I'm not just portraying I've changed, but I have truly become more like Christ. Now, in the Old Testament, all they had were the commandments. All they had were the rules. And that's where they tended to get hung up with. And Jesus said, okay, You have heard it said, you have seen it written, blah, blah, blah. But verily I say unto you, this is the essence of what this rule's about. This is the change within your person that God is really looking for. And then we're told we're given a little help to get there that those guys didn't have. The Holy Spirit. So what are these morals called? In Galatians 5? Fruit of the Spirit. That's how we go about getting these type of things. So, are they restrictive? No.
If you have those things, you have much more joy and peace in your life.
God had just taken a people that were miserable in slavery, right? Do you think He's going to put them back into slavery again?
That's why Jesus hated the
No,
Pharisees
but
and
they
the
put them,
Sadducees, because they were putting the people into slavery.
they put themselves in.
They put themselves in. It wasn't God's intention for us to be slaves.
We just get to choose what we're a slave to.
We get to choose what we're a slave to. Galatians chapter 5:13. You, my brothers, were called to be free. Verse 14. The entire law, the entire instructions, Mom, is summed up in a single command, which you jumped to when we were going over the Ten Commandments. What is it?
You shall love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and mind, and soul, and thy neighbor as thyself.
He just deals with loving your neighbor as yourself right now.
I think it's important that it doesn't say works of the Spirit, it says fruits, which is the end product.
The end product is what we're after. Exodus 20, verse 1 and 2. And the God spoke all these words, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. So who initiated these thoughts?
God.
God. Who did He initiate them for?
The enslaved.
His people who were enslaved. Were we ever enslaved?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't call this happy. That's misery to me.
Consequences.
It all comes with consequences. Very much so.
Short time joy or pleasure, but not long term.
It's not fulfilling.
So,
Kind of like when you drive through the guardrail and you're headed off the cliff. We're really flying now.
yeah. There's a story about a guy that jumped off a 100-story building. About halfway down, somebody sticks their head out the window and says, how's it going? He says, so far so good. That's where America's going. We're in this free fall. And it looks good now, but bottom's coming up. What's the saying? It's not the fall that kills you, it's a sudden stop at the end. That's where America's heading. And so we want to be the kind of people, like in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5, that other people look at you and say, there is a wise and understanding people. And the start is within God's code of ethics.
God is with them.
His God is with them. So, that
So many people in the other religions can't understand a God who would come down and die for us.
nope, can't at all. But most people look at it as thou shalt not. Well, there goes all the fun. And this is God coming up beside you and said, hey, you know, life really works better if you stop at the stop signs, if you go the speed limit, if you stay on your side of the road. If you don't eat that sandwich that's been laying out in the middle of the street all day. But for some reason, the word no is a 4-letter word today. Listen to Ted Koppel. We have actually convinced ourselves that slogans will save us. Shoot up if you want, but use a clean needle. Enjoy sex whenever and with whomever you wish, but wear a condom. No. The answer is no. Not because it isn't cool or smart or because you might end up in jail or end up dying of AIDS, but no, because it is wrong. Because we have spent 5,000 years as a race of rational human beings trying to drag ourselves out of the primeval slime, searching for the truth and for moral absolutes. Our society finds truth too strong a medicine to digest undiluted. In its purest form, truth is not a polite tap on the shoulder. It is a howling reproach. What Moses brought down from Mount Sinai were not the 10 suggestions, they are commandments. Are, not were. The sheer brilliance of the 10 Commandments is that they codify in a handful of words acceptable human behavior. Not just for then, not just for now, but for all time. Do we believe that? We'll find out next few weeks. So, any other questions or comments? We're glad you're here.